Imagine walking into a room and realizing everyone there is holding a remote control to your life. Your boss has the volume button. Your ex has the channel changer. That person who cut you off in traffic 5 minutes ago, they just hit the mute button on your happiness. You're the main character of this story, but somehow you've become a background extra in your own head. Right now, you're probably scrolling because you feel like a phone at 1% battery. You've spent your whole life being the nice guy or the reliable girl. You've been the one who stays late, the one who listens to everyone's problems, and the one who always says it's fine when it's actually falling apart. You were taught that being a good person means emptying your cup so everyone else can take a sip. But here's the cold, hard truth that nobody wants to tell you. If you keep giving until you're empty, you aren't being a hero. You're becoming a ghost. The ancient Stoics had a secret that sounds almost offensive to our modern ears. They didn't believe in self-care in the way we see it today. They didn't care about bubble baths or scented candles. They believed in something much more radical. They believed that the greatest act of service you can provide to the world is to be a person who cannot be broken. Think about it. If you're a mess, how can you help your family? If your mind is a chaotic storm of what do they think of me, and am I doing enough, how can you lead? You can't. You're trying to build a skyscraper on a foundation of wet sand. We've been lied to. We've been told that putting yourself first is a sin, but the Stoics knew that if you don't own your mind, someone else will rent that space for free. There is a specific moment every morning, a tiny window of time right after your eyes open, where the world hasn't started screaming at you yet. In those few seconds, you are pure. You are you. But then, the notifications hit. The to-do list starts barking. The ghost of every mistake you made in 2014 starts whispering in your ear. And just like that, you've handed over the keys to your kingdom before you've even brushed your teeth. Why do we do this? Why do we value the opinions of people we don't even like more than our own peace of mind? We're living in a world that profits off your insecurity. If you felt whole, you wouldn't need to buy the next thing. If you felt powerful, you wouldn't need to click on 1,000 videos trying to find the hack to happiness. The truth is, the hack is a hard reset. It's about realizing that your energy isn't a gift shop. It's a fortress. The Stoic path to self-love isn't about vanity. It's about sovereignty. It's about looking in the mirror and realizing that the person looking back at you is the only person who is going to be there from your first breath to your last. Everyone else is a guest. Your parents, your kids, your spouse, they are all traveling through your life. You are the only permanent resident. So why is the house a mess? Why are the walls covered in the graffiti of other people's expectations? We're going to spend the next few minutes stripping all that away. We aren't going to talk about loving yourself like it's some soft, fuzzy feeling. We're going to talk about it like it's a military operation. We're going to talk about how to reclaim your time, your focus, and your worth from a world that wants to keep you small. If you feel like you've been living for everyone else and you've finally hit a wall, good. That wall is the best thing that ever happened to you. Because you can't build a new life until the old shaky one falls down. You've been trying to keep everyone happy, and in the process, you've become the person you like the least. It's time to stop the leak. It's time to realize that no is a complete sentence and that your soul isn't a public park where anyone can just dump their trash. It's time to get your remote back. Think about the last time you said yes to something when every fiber of your being was screaming no. Maybe it was an extra shift at work, a favor for a friend who never pays it back, or just staying on the phone with someone who drains your soul like a leaky battery. In that moment, you didn't just give away your time. You committed treason against yourself. You traded your internal peace for someone else's temporary convenience. And the worst part? They didn't even notice the sacrifice. To them, it was just another Tuesday. To you, it was another brick pulled out of the wall of your self-respect. The Stoics had a word for this kind of behavior, and it isn't kindness, it's vanity. That might sting a bit, right? You think you're being a martyr, but Marcus Aurelius would tell you that you're actually just addicted to the approval of people who don't even know the real you. You're performing. You're wearing a mask of the perfect helper because you're terrified of what happens if you take it off. You're scared that if you stop being useful, people will stop loving you. But if someone only loves you for what you can do for them, they don't love you, they love the service you provide. There is a massive difference between being a person of value and being a person of use. Imagine your life is a glass of water. Every time you overextend yourself, every time you let someone's criticism ruin your day, every time you prioritize a stranger's comfort over your own mental health, you're pouring a little bit of that water out. By noon, the glass is bone dry. And then you wonder why you're snappy with your kids. You wonder why you're too tired to work on that side project you've been dreaming about for 3 years. You wonder why you feel like a hollow shell. You've given the water to everyone else and left yourself to die of thirst. This isn't just about time management. This is about spiritual physics. You cannot pour from an empty cup. It is physically, mentally, and stoically impossible. To truly love others, to truly be a pillar of strength for your community or your family, you have to be overflowing first. Self-love isn't the act of taking from others, it's the act of securing your own borders, so that when you do give, it's out of abundance, not out of a desperate need to be liked. Let's get real about the nice guy or nice girl syndrome. We think it's a virtue. We wear our busyness and our self-neglect like a badge of honor. Oh, I'm so stressed I do everything for everyone. We brag at brunch. But look closer. That's not virtue, it's an escape. It's easier to fix everyone else's broken sink than it is to sit in the silence of your own room and figure out why you're unhappy. It's a distraction from the deep, uncomfortable work of building a character that can stand alone. Epictetus, a man who was literally born a slave and became one of the greatest minds in history, once said that no man is free who is not master of himself. If you are waiting for someone else to give you permission to feel worthy, you are still a slave. If your mood depends on the tone of a text message, you are a slave. If your self-worth is tied to your bank account or your job title, you've just traded one master for another. True Stoic self-love is the realization that you are the only person who can grant you freedom. It starts with a radical, almost terrifying level of honesty. You have to admit that you've been complicit in your own unhappiness. You have to admit that you let people walk all over you because you were too afraid to stand up. But here's the beauty of it. Once you realize you're the one who opened the door to the intruders, you realize you're the only one who can kick them out. We've been conditioned to think that boundaries are mean. We think setting a limit makes us a jerk. But a house without walls isn't a kind house, it's a ruin. It's an open field where the wind and the rain destroy everything inside. Your boundaries are the walls that protect your inner fire. Without them, the wind of the world's chaos will blow your light out in seconds. It's time to start laying the bricks. It's time to stop apologizing for existing in a space that belongs to you. Now, let's talk about the mirror trap. Most of us wake up, walk into the bathroom, and see a person we've been judging for years. We see the wrinkles, the tired eyes, the mistakes of yesterday written all over our faces. We look at ourselves through the eyes of our harshest critics. You're looking for flaws to fix before you even say good morning to your own soul. The Stoics had a better way. They didn't look in the mirror to find a celebrity or a saint. They looked in the mirror to find a soldier. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world at his time, didn't wake up in a silk-lined palace thinking about how great he was. He woke up and told himself, "The people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." He wasn't being a pessimist. He was arming himself. He knew that if he expected everyone to be nice, he'd be crushed by the first person who was rude to him. He loved himself enough to provide a shield for his mind. Self-love is often marketed as affirming yourself, telling yourself you're perfect exactly as you are. But deep down, you know that's a lie. You know you have habits that are holding you back. You know you spend too much time on your phone and not enough time on your goals. You know you let fear make your decisions. True Stoic self-love is the tough love of a world-class coach. It's saying, "I love you too much to let you stay this mediocre." Think of your mind like a high-end garden. If you just leave it alone and tell the weeds you're beautiful just the way you are, the weeds will take over and kill the roses. You have to be the gardener. You have to pull out the invasive thoughts, the "I'm not good enoughs" and the "it's too lates," and throw them in the compost. You have to protect the soil. This isn't being mean to yourself. It's being responsible for the only piece of the universe you actually control. We live in a hustle culture that tells us our worth is the sum of our achievements. If you didn't close the deal, if you didn't get the likes, if you didn't lose the 10 pounds, then you're a failure. But the Stoics would laugh at that. They believed in something called internal validation. Imagine you're an archer. You can practice until your fingers bleed. You can buy the best bow. You can aim with 100% focus. But the moment the arrow leaves the string, it's out of your hands. A gust of wind can knock it off course. A bird can fly in front of it. If your self-worth is tied to the arrow hitting the bullseye, you're a victim of the wind. But if your self-worth is tied to how well you pulled the string and how steady you held your breath, you are invincible. You can't control the results, but you can always control the effort. Loving yourself means forgiving yourself for the misses that weren't your fault, while holding yourself to a standard of excellence in the things that are. Most of us are walking around with leaky buckets. We try to fill them with external praise, money, and status, but it all just drains out the bottom. We need more, just to feel okay for 5 minutes. Stoicism is about plugging the leaks. It's about realizing that you are already enough, not because of what you've done, but because you have the capacity to choose your own character right now. In this second. You don't need a promotion to be brave. You don't need a partner to be kind. You don't need $1 million to be disciplined. These are internal muscles, and every time you use them, you are sending a signal to your brain that says, "I am a person worth respecting." That is where real self-confidence comes from. It's not a feeling you get from a pep talk. It's an evidence-based conclusion you reach by watching yourself do hard things. When you start treating your character like your most valuable possession, your life changes. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What can I do with this?" You stop being a passenger in the car of your emotions and you grab the steering wheel. You start to realize that while you can't control the weather, you can always control how you sail the ship. And that, my friend, is the ultimate form of self-respect. Think about the mental rent you're paying every single day. We all have those people in our heads, the high school bully, the boss who passed us over for a promotion, or that perfect influencer on Instagram. You're lugging their opinions around like a backpack full of bricks, and you're wondering why your back hurts. Stoicism is the art of dropping the bag. It's realizing that most of the people you're trying to impress aren't even thinking about you. They're too busy worrying about their own bricks. There's a powerful Stoic concept called the circle of concern versus the circle of influence. Most of us live 90% of our lives in the outer circle, worrying about the economy, the weather, what our neighbors think of our lawn, or how many people liked our last post. These are things you have zero control over. Living there is like trying to steer a ship by shouting at the waves. It's exhausting, it's loud, and it gets you absolutely nowhere. Self-love is the act of shrinking your world down to the inner circle. It's focusing with laser precision on the only things you actually own: your thoughts, your intentions, and your actions. When you stop obsessing over the waves and start focusing on the rudder, the panic disappears. You realize that you don't need the world to be calm for you to be at peace. You just need to be the master of your own ship. Let's talk about the shadow. We all have a version of ourselves we try to hide. The lazy version, the angry version, the version that's scared of failing. Most self-help tells you to suppress that part of you, to stay positive and vibe high. But the Stoics were realists. They knew that if you try to bury a shadow, it just grows longer. Seneca, one of the wealthiest and most powerful Stoics, used to practice poverty rehearsals. He would spend days eating scraps and wearing rags just to prove to himself that his worst fear, losing his money, wasn't actually that bad. He loved himself enough to face his nightmares. He didn't wait for disaster to strike. He invited it to tea so he could see it wasn't a monster. You can do the same. What are you actually afraid of? Being alone? Being broke? Being judged? Look those fears in the eye. Realize that even if the worst happens, the real you, your character, your mind, your ability to choose, remains untouched. When you stop being afraid of your own shadows, they lose their power to haunt you. We treat our physical bodies like high-performance machines. We worry about the fuel and the maintenance. But what about the software? What kind of code are you running in your brain? If your internal dialogue was broadcast on a loudspeaker for everyone to hear, would you be proud of it? Or would you be embarrassed by how mean you are to yourself? You would never talk to a friend the way you talk to yourself when you drop a glass or miss a deadline. You call yourself stupid or a failure. That's not keeping it real. That's sabotage. A Stoic understands that words have power. Every time you insult yourself, you're programming your subconscious to settle for less. Self-love is being a disciplined programmer. It's catching those bugs in the code and hitting delete. It's replacing "I can't do this" with "I haven't mastered this yet." This isn't about being delusional. It's about being effective. A soldier who tells himself he's going to lose has already lost before the first shot is fired. You are in a battle for your own potential every single day. The world is already going to try to beat you down. Why are you helping it? Stop being your own worst enemy and start being your own most reliable ally. This means setting high standards, yes, but it also means having your own back when things go sideways. It means realizing that a bad day is just a data point, not a definition of who you are. You are the sky. The bad days are just clouds. They pass. The sky remains. Let's talk about the trap of tomorrow. We've all done it. I'll start loving myself when I lose 10 pounds. I'll be happy when I get that promotion. I'll find peace once the kids are out of the house. We treat our well-being like a finish line that keeps moving further away every time we get close. This is what the Stoics called the folly of postponement. You're living your life in the waiting room, reading old magazines, waiting for a doctor who is never going to call your name. Seneca once wrote that while we are wasting our time hesitating and procrastinating, life goes on. He wasn't trying to give you anxiety, he was trying to give you a wake-up call. Self-love isn't a reward for reaching a goal. It is the fuel you need to get there in the first place. If you wait until you're perfect to respect yourself, you'll be waiting in your grave. Think about your attention as your most valuable currency. Every time you spend it on what if, or if only, you're throwing money into a black hole. The Stoics practiced something called Amor Fati, a Latin phrase that means love of fate. It sounds heavy, but it's actually the ultimate life hack for mental freedom. It doesn't mean you just tolerate what happens to you. It means you embrace it. If it rains on your wedding day, Amor Fati says, great. The rain is part of the story. If you get fired, Amor Fati says, this is exactly the obstacle I needed to become stronger. It's the opposite of why me. It's try me. When you stop fighting reality, you stop leaking energy. You start using that energy to build something new. Loving yourself means loving your life exactly as it is right now, not because it's perfect, but because it's yours. It's the only reality you've got. We're often our own harshest jailers. We lock ourselves in a cage of shoulds. I should be further along. I should be earning more. I should be happier. But should is a ghost. It's a comparison to a version of you that doesn't exist. The only version of you that matters is the one breathing right now. The Stoics believed in the inner citadel, a fortress inside your mind that no one can enter without your permission. Most people have left the drawbridge down and the front door unlocked. They let every headline, every rude comment, and every setback waltz right in and trash the place. Self-love is the act of being your own security guard. It's deciding what gets to affect your mood and what doesn't. When you realize that your opinion of yourself is the only one that actually carries weight, the world gets very quiet. It's like turning off a leaf blower that's been running in the background of your life for 20 years. Suddenly, you can hear yourself think. You can feel your own heartbeat. You realize that you don't need to scream to be heard, and you don't need to perform to be seen. This isn't about being cold or distant. It's about being grounded. When you love yourself stoically, you become a rock in the middle of a crashing ocean. The waves hit you, they spray over you, but you don't move. You are the constant. And because you are stable, you can actually help the people drowning around you. You aren't just another person flailing in the water, you're the one holding the rope. Let's talk about the social media mirage. You're laying in bed, scrolling through a feed of people living their best lives. You see the vacations, the perfect bodies, the six-figure side hustles, and the blessed captions. Every swipe is a tiny needle prick to your self-esteem. You start playing the comparison game, and here's the thing about that game. It's rigged. You're comparing your behind-the-scenes footage, the messy kitchen, the anxiety, the Monday morning blues, with everyone else's curated highlight reel. The Stoics had a term for this, doxa, or common opinion. They viewed it as a mental disease. Epictetus warned that if you want to make progress, you must be content to seem clueless or even stupid regarding outward things. He wasn't saying you should actually be ignorant. He was saying you should stop caring if people think you're winning. Self-love is the courage to be ordinary in the eyes of the world, so you can be extraordinary in your own soul. Think about your attention as a high-powered spotlight. Most of us have that light pointed outward, frantically trying to illuminate everyone else's stage. We're watching their play, cheering for their characters, and critiquing their performance. Meanwhile, our own stage is pitch black. We're stumbling over the props of our own lives because we're not looking at where we're stepping. Stoic self-love is flipping that spotlight 180 degrees. It's the realization that you have a limited amount of fucks to give in this life. If you spend them on a stranger's Instagram post or a celebrity's drama, you have none left for your own growth. You are literally bankrupting your future to fund someone else's ego. Real self-respect means being boring to the crowd. It means staying in on a Friday night to work on your discipline. It means saying no to the party where everyone just complains about their lives. It means being okay with the fact that people might think you've changed. Of course you've changed. You're evolving. If you're the same person you were a year ago, you aren't living, you're just existing. The Roman Stoic Musonius Rufus used to say that we should choose the path that is difficult but right, rather than the one that is easy but wrong. The easy path is fitting in. The easy path is seeking likes. The easy path is letting your emotions drive the bus. But the easy path leads to a life of quiet desperation. Loving yourself means being a strict parent to your own impulses. When you want to binge watch 6 hours of junk instead of sleeping, self-love is the voice that says, "No, we have a big day tomorrow, and I care about your future too much to let you ruin it tonight." When you want to send that angry text, self-love is the hand that puts the phone down. It's the realization that your lower self, the part of you that wants comfort and instant gratification, is a toddler. And you don't let a toddler run your life. You are the adult in the room. You are the architect. You are the one who has to live with the consequences of every choice. When you start making decisions based on where you want to be in 5 years, rather than what feels good in 5 seconds, that's when you know you've finally started to love yourself. You've stopped being a fan of your potential and started being a practitioner of it. We're about to head into the final stretch of this journey. We've talked about the mindset, the boundaries, and the discipline. Now, we're going to talk about the legacy. What happens when you finally stop asking for permission and start giving yourself orders? What happens when the world realizes it can't break you anymore? Here is the final piece of the puzzle. We've spent this time breaking down the walls you've lived inside for years. We've looked at the nice guy trap, the mirror trap, and the social media mirage. But now, we have to talk about the legacy of the unbroken. There is a version of you that exists just a few months into the future. A version who isn't looking for a win because they already feel like they've won. This person doesn't walk into a room wondering if people like them. They walk into a room and wonder if they like the people there. That shift in perspective is the ultimate Stoic victory. It's called Autarky, self-sufficiency. It's the moment you realize that your happiness is no longer an if-then statement. If I get the girl, then I'm happy. If I get the raise, then I'm worthy. No. You've moved to a because-so statement. Because I am in control of my mind, I am at peace. So, Let the world bring what it may. When you reach this level of self-love, something strange happens. People start to gravitate toward you. Not because you're doing favors for them or begging for their attention, but because you are a source of heat in a cold world. You are stable. You are certain. You are a person who has done the work. The world is full of people who are desperate for a leader, and when they see someone who has mastered their own soul, they recognize it instantly. But here's the warning: this isn't a destination. You don't arrive at self-love and check it off your to-do list. Stoicism is a daily hygiene. Just like you wouldn't shower once and expect to stay clean for a year, you can't have one epiphany and expect to be bulletproof forever. The world will try to pull you back. Your old habits will knock on your door at 2:00 am. You will fail. You will have days where you let the remote control slip out of your hands. When that happens, don't beat yourself up. That's just the old programming trying to run. A Stoic just takes a breath, acknowledges the mistake, and says, "That was then. This is now." You are always just one choice away from being the person you want to be. You don't need a New Year's resolution. You don't need a Monday. You just need the next 5 minutes. You were born with a spark of the divine, a rational mind that can observe itself. That is the greatest gift in the universe. To waste it on self-pity, to drown it in the pursuit of other people's approval, or to let it rot in fear, is a tragedy. You are a fragment of the cosmos experiencing itself. Act like it. Walk with your head up. Speak with intent. Treat your time like the non-renewable resource it is. The path to self-love is the path of the warrior. It's not about being soft, it's about being so strong that you can afford to be kind. It's about being so secure that you don't need to yell. It's about being so centered that when the world tries to shake you, you just smile and keep walking. You've got the tools now. You've got the blueprint. The only thing left to do is to start building. Don't wait for the perfect moment. The perfect moment is currently dying. Use the one that's arriving right now. Reclaim your kingdom. Own your mind. Love the man or woman in the mirror enough to demand their absolute best. If this message hit home and you're ready to stop being a spectator and start being the master of your fate, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Stoic Origin. We're building a community of people who are tired of the noise and ready for the truth. Join us. Your future self is waiting.